He said it loud enough for everyone in the diner to hear. "You're damaged goods, Emily. No one's ever gonna fix you." The words hung in the air like shattered glass, cutting, cruel, impossible to sweep away. Emily Carter didn't flinch. Not on the outside, at least. She just looked down at the chipped coffee mug between her trembling hands and whispered to herself, "I'm not broken. I'm just healing." It was the kind of morning that burned itself into your bones. A gray December dawn in the small town of Maple Ridge, where snow gathered like dust on the edges of cracked sidewalks. Emily had been working the early shift at Dottie's Diner, pouring coffee and offering tired smiles to regulars who barely looked up from their plates. She had been doing it for almost a year, ever since the accident that took away her career, her fiancé, and the version of herself she once recognized. Before we go further, pause for a moment, because what happens next will remind you that kindness has a way of circling back when you least expect it. If you believe true kindness always finds its way back, please tap the like button now and subscribe to support more stories like this. Emily used to be a paramedic. Back then, she was the first one to arrive at car wrecks, heart attacks, overdoses. She'd seen humanity at its worst and done everything to bring it back to life. But one night, her own ambulance was hit by a drunk driver on Highway 62. Her partner died instantly. She survived, but with a shattered leg, nerve damage, and months of physical therapy that stripped away her sense of purpose, layer by layer. The man who'd just called her damaged goods was Derek, the same fiancé who'd promised to stand by her through anything. At first he had. But as Emily's medical bills piled up and her limp became permanent, Derek's patience ran out. He wanted the old Emily back, the one who could run upstairs, laugh easily, carry his plans. When he realized she couldn't, he left. That morning in the diner was their first accidental encounter since the breakup. Derek was sitting in a booth with another woman, a polished brunette who looked at Emily with pity when she approached. Derek had smiled that smug, half-drunken grin and said it, just loud enough for the entire place to hear. Emily's cheeks burned, but she simply nodded, refilled his coffee, and walked away. What no one in that diner knew was that Emily had already been accepted into a new job, the one she'd applied for months ago at St. Mary's Community Clinic. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't paramedic work, but it was something. She'd be helping patients in the physical therapy ward, people who lost their strength, their confidence, their will to start over. That night, when she got home to her small apartment, Emily sat on the floor with her cat, Willow, and whispered, "We're not damaged. We're just learning how to walk again." Her first day at the clinic was quiet but heavy with memories. The smell of antiseptic, the squeak of sneakers on tile floors, the beeping rhythm of heart monitors. It all came rushing back. She almost turned around and left. Then she met Dr. Michael Grant. He was the new rehabilitation director, a man in his 40s with a kind of calm presence that steadied an entire room. He'd heard about Emily's background, read her file, and when she limped into his office, he stood and said gently, "You've been on the other side of this. That's why you'll make a difference here." Emily didn't believe him then. She just nodded and got to work. Over the weeks that followed, she helped stroke survivors regain their grip strength, accident victims take their first steps, and veterans with PTSD find courage through steady human connection. She wasn't just teaching them exercises, she was listening. She understood pain in a language words couldn't capture, and somehow they sensed it. Still, at night, those words, damaged goods, echoed in her mind like an old song she couldn't turn off. 1. Stormy. February evening, the clinic was nearly empty when a young boy was rushed in. His name was Ethan Morales, 8 years old, hit by a truck while chasing his dog across the street. His mother, Teresa, sobbed in the hallway as doctors and nurses swarmed the ER. Emily stood frozen at the entrance. She could hear the same frantic code calls she once responded to as a paramedic. Her body trembled, not from fear, but from the flood of memory, the flashing lights, the smell of gasoline, the sound of her partner's last breath. Dr. Grant appeared beside her. "Emily," he said, voice steady but urgent, We need hands in the trauma bay, now." She hesitated. I'm not—" "Yes, you are," he said. "You're exactly who that boy needs." Something inside her shifted. Emily moved. She pushed through the doors, heart pounding, and went to work beside the medical team. When a nurse struggled to stabilize the boy's airway, Emily stepped in instinctively, positioning Ethan's head, coaching the others through controlled breaths. "Easy. Keep him oxygenated," she murmured, her voice calm despite the chaos. Minutes felt like hours, but when the monitor finally steadied into a strong rhythm, the entire room exhaled. Ethan was stable. Dr. Grant looked at her with something between awe and gratitude. "You saved him," he said softly. But Emily shook her head. "We all did." Later, when Ethan's mother saw Emily leaving the room, she fell into her arms. "You brought my baby back," she cried. "I don't know how to thank you." Emily didn't know how to respond. For the first time in a long while, she felt whole. A week later, the clinic held a small recognition ceremony for staff who had gone above and beyond. Emily didn't expect her name to be mentioned. She was just a rehab assistant, nothing more, nothing less. But when Dr. Grant took the podium, his words silenced the room. "I want to tell you about a woman who redefines what healing looks like," he began. "She came here believing she was broken. But in the moments that mattered most, she became the strength everyone else leaned on." He turned toward Emily, eyes soft but unyielding. "Some people called her damaged. I call her a miracle worker." The audience applauded, but Emily didn't hear much beyond that one line. For the first time, those old words lost their power. Damaged goods no longer described her, they described the man who'd said them. Life didn't turn perfect overnight. Emily still had pain. Some mornings she still needed the cane she kept beside her bed, but she began walking taller, speaking softer but stronger. The people around her noticed. She started volunteering at a local support group for trauma survivors. On Tuesdays, she'd bring coffee and listen to veterans talk about sleepless nights, and survivors describe the slow, painful journey of recovery. When someone said, "I'll never be the same again," she'd smile and answer, "Maybe that's the point. Maybe we're not supposed to be." Her story spread quietly through Maple Ridge. Folks who once pitied her began to admire her. She became a silent anchor in the community, a reminder that broken things can still hold light. One warm spring afternoon, Emily was working a shift at the clinic when she noticed a familiar face in the waiting room. Derek. He looked older, defeated somehow, holding a brace around his wrist. "A workplace accident," he explained awkwardly, "had torn a tendon. He needed therapy." The air grew thick between them. For a moment, Derek couldn't meet her eyes. "Emily," he finally muttered, "I didn't know you worked here." She smiled politely. "People change." He nodded, shame flickering behind his expression. "Listen, about what I said before—" He stopped, swallowing hard. "I was angry, scared. You didn't deserve that." Emily looked at him, steady but kind. "You were right about one thing," she said. "I'm not who I used to be, but I'm better for it." For the first time, Derek didn't try to argue. He just sat there, eyes wet, realizing the weight of what he'd lost. She didn't need revenge. She didn't need an apology to reclaim her worth. She'd already found it in every patient she helped stand again. That evening, after closing up the clinic, Emily walked out into the golden lights spilling across the parking lot. She could hear the sound of children playing near the park, the hum of life moving forward. She thought about Ethan, the little boy who was now walking again, about the mother who still sent her thank you cards every week. And she thought about how far she'd come, from a broken paramedic who lost everything, to a healer rebuilding others one step at a time. Her reflection in the clinic's glass door caught her off guard. She didn't see damage anymore. She saw proof of survival, proof of grace. As she watched the sunset bleed across the horizon, Emily whispered, "Maybe this is what miracles look like, not the kind that erase scars, but the kind that teach you how to live with them." Before we close this story, take a moment. We'd love to hear your story. What is the most memorable act of unexpected kindness you have witnessed or received? Share it in the comments below, because sometimes the people we call broken are the ones holding others together. And if this story touched your heart, please don't leave without doing one simple thing. Tap the like button, subscribe, and share this video so more people remember no one is ever too damaged to make a difference.